Welcome back to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. Topic of this episode is going to be the fall of the San Diego Padres. I've been doing a lot of Phillies content. Obviously, you guys see the background, big Phillies fan, and I kind of wanted to get more into the other Major League teams because Baseball for Maniacs, the YouTube channel, is for all 30 Major League Baseball teams. And I was thinking of videos to do, and I kind of just wanted to go over the San Diego Padres, just like their last 4 or 5 years have been so interesting. So many moving pieces, so many what ifs in the future, like with the team and everything. And I kind of just want to go through 2022 up until now to where the Padres, unfortunately, because I love San Diego. I love the atmosphere. I love the fans. Petco Park truly is one of the best baseball environments in baseball to where I'm not happy that this is happening. I kind of just wanted to go through it and give Padres fans, baseball fans, kind of like an understanding of what is going on with that franchise. So let's get into 2022. They beat the Dodgers 4-1. That series was so electric, and it really showed you what Petco Park can get like in October. And then them beating the Dodgers in 2022 is going to lead to my 2024 take of how close we were to the Padres slaying the giant, the current giant that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. But then they lost to the Phillies, right? Whatever. It was a great season. It was a wild card team. The Padres were on the rise. But the offseason that happened after 2022 is why the San Diego Padres are in the current predicament they are in. And before I get into all of these deals and everything, I want to give you guys some clarification or kind of understanding why those deals were signed. The late owner, Peter Seidler, was dying. And it's a very, very sad situation because he is revered around the game as one of not only the best owners in baseball, but one of the most genuine, great human beings this game has ever seen. When he eventually passed, Yu Darvish gave a great statement of who he was as a human being. Every owner in sports should strive to be Peter Seidler because he owned the team for the city. He was a representative, a voice of the city. His main goal was to win a championship. And unfortunately, this is sad. He knew he was going, so he wanted to do everything he can to get a championship before he eventually passed, to where he was just going to spend money on anything, right? And I'm going to get into the players he offered that denied him, the contracts he eventually signed, but he was going to do everything in his power to get a championship before he eventually passed. So where these contracts are the reason why the Padres are in the situation they are. But if you like criticize that, understanding the circumstances, that's kind of sick, right? Like you have to understand what he was doing. So he signed Xander Bogaerts. Before that, he was in the market for Trey Turner. He actually offered more money for Trey Turner than the Phillies. Trey Turner just wanted to be east side, closer with his family. They live in Florida. So it makes sense why Trey Turner denied the offer. Aaron Judge, they offered Aaron Judge $400 million. He said no. He went back to the Yankees. So at that point, they had to sign someone because, again, Peter Seidler was not leaving that offseason without giving out a big contract. And he gave Xander Bogaerts 11 years, $280 million. Xander Bogaerts, going into that contract year in his free agency, was a very good player for Boston, a very good player. But no one and their mother was offering him 11 years. So where I think he overread the market a little bit, obviously. But like I said, he wasn't leaving that offseason empty-handed. To where Xander Bogaerts' OPS the last 3 years, his first 3 years in San Diego, 2023, 790 OPS. Pretty good. Not bad. Pretty good. 2024, 688. Obviously not good. 2025, 719. And they're still on the hook for 8 more years at $203 million. That's going to handcuff them. And then let's get into the next extension they signed. Yu Darvish, 6 years, $108 million. Now, he did just retire, so I'm not 100% sure how that affects the money he's going to get paid for the remaining years of the contract. I would assume he's not getting paid that. They probably worked out a deal. I'm not sure how that's going to affect the luxury tax, but nevertheless, the last 3 years of Yu Darvish were not worth that contract. And the fact that he gave him 6 years, kind of insane. But let's get into the extension that I think is going to ruin the San Diego Padres. Extending Manny Machado 11 years, $350 million. So Manny Machado signed a 10-year deal with the Padres in 2019, but he had an opt-out after year 5. He was a Scott Boras client. Scott Boras emphasized Bryce Harper to have an opt-out in his contract, obviously because when you hit your opt-out and you're still at the peak of your powers, you're going to get another long-term deal, similar to Manny Machado. So in the sense of the Padres giving him that contract, it's almost like you kind of had to do it, even though it wasn't a good move, because you got to think he signed that extension right after 2022, right when the San Diego Padres beat the Dodgers, were on the cusp of the World Series. Everything was leaning towards 2023. So is it a bad deal? Do I think it's going to handcuff them? Absolutely. But you couldn't let Manny Machado walk out the door, right? Because he was the San Diego Padres. He was a leader in the clubhouse, still is, still a very good player. But I think down the road and having all these contracts on the book, I'm going to get into why selling the team is going to be much more difficult because you have all these commitments. And owners, when they're buying teams, potential owners, they don't want that on the books. They don't want to inherit bad contracts. It's bad for business. But his last 3 years, in 23, he had a 781 OPS. Pretty good. Manny Machado plays gold glove defense to where if he's hovering around 800 OPS, he's worth the contract. This is more in the sense of down the road, the last 5-6 years of the deal. 2024 is 797, last year 795. But again, he has 8 years left on that contract at 32 AAV. Yikes. So, and then the 2023 season happened. That season was so weird because it felt like all their chips were in, and for some reason they just it didn't work out. I think the Padres in 23 lost the most one-run games. It was just a weird season. And then Soto, like, there's rumors that he didn't mesh well with Machado. That's why he was traded. I think Juan Soto was traded simply because of the new ownership. I think it was the brother and the sister of Peter Seidler, the family. They knew they weren't going to be able to pay Juan Soto. Peter Seidler spent money differently than his family is doing right now. Peter Seidler's one goal was to win a championship. I think his family's more on the business side. And that's unfortunate because anytime the family takes over the father's business, you want the family to kind of do what the father envisioned because the father built that up, right? So, but nevertheless, they had to trade Juan Soto. But trading Juan Soto turned out to be very good for them in the 2024 season. And I'll get into 2024. But they got Dylan Cease and Michael King. So they got Michael King from the Yankees, and they got Dylan Thrope from the White Sox, and then they flipped Dylan Thrope to the White Sox for Dylan Cease. And both of them were very effective in 2024. That Michael King wildcard start against the Atlanta Braves was one of the best pitching performances I've ever seen. But here, I'm going to get into 2024. That was their year to win it. And I'll tell you what, if they would have won the World Series in 2024, all of this is bullshit. All of this is crap. If you win a World Series, all of this is worth it. I don't care about the next 10 years. I don't care about the bad contracts, the inability to sell the team due to those bad contracts. Winning a World Series is the main goal in baseball. That's what it should be. And I kind of pivot to this point, like bad contracts, right? So Jason Hayward, when he signed with the Cubs, everyone looks at that as a bad contract. I do not. You know why? Because it helped them win a World Series. Was it only one World Series? Yes. But they won a World Series to where 2024 was the year to where if they would have won it, all of this doesn't matter. And let's get into the 2024 National League Division Series. Fernando Tatis in Game 3, when he hit that ball off Walker Buehler, a 0-2 fastball to the moon to put the Padres up, I think it was either 4 or 5-0. Nobody in the world thought the Padres weren't beating the Dodgers because you got to think the emotional edge, the in your heads. The Dodgers said it that when they played the Padres in 2024, they were they were shitting bricks. They were nervous as hell. Max Muncy said so. Mookie Betts said so. And all the momentum was with San Diego. They were up 2-1 in a best-of-5 Game 4 closeout game in the home. It was the exact same situation of the 2022 National League Division Series. They lost Game 1 in LA, won Game 2, won Game 3. It all went to Game 4. And it's just so crazy how one game can change the entire trajectory of a baseball landscape. Because obviously the Dodgers win Game 4, then win Game 5. And then they went on to win the World Series. And then they went back-to-back last year to where this whole salary cap stuff, of should there be a salary cap? Does baseball need to change? Is there going to be a lockout? It's all predicated on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, granted, the owners are using the Dodgers as a sense to get a salary cap because they don't want to pay players, right? That's their entire game plan. And the Dodgers spending all this money, winning back-to-back World Series championships just gives them more credence to their point. But if the Padres win Game 4, they win the National League Division Series, they go off and face the Mets. I think they beat the Mets. I think they beat the Yankees. They win the World Series. And now the Dodgers' mental is completely screwed because the team that has their number back-to-back postseasons time they played each other is in their division. And I think it just changed everything in Major League Baseball. Changed everything for the Dodgers, changed everything for the Padres because now all those bad contracts, all those quote-unquote bad decisions, they're not bad decisions because they won a World Series. And let's just get into then 2025. They had a good year, but they didn't win it all. They lost in the wild card round. They traded Leo Tavares for Mason Miller. And we don't know how Leo Tavares is going to turn out. I personally think he's going to be a superstar. He's one of the best prospects in Major League Baseball. But they did get Mason Miller. And Mason Miller still is on their team for another 2 years. One of the best closers in Major League Baseball. So in the sense of, was it a bad move? We don't really know, because here's the thing. If the Padres win the World Series last year, it's a great move, because whatever move you made led to a World Series. That hasn't happened yet, and we just don't know how Leo DeViris, my apologies, is going to turn out. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. But it also goes to the point, the Padres' mindset, not only with ownership and their general manager, AJ Preller, is win now, win now, win now. And they just extended him. But the Padres' farm system is now the worst in Major League Baseball, to where is AJ Preller going to have the assets to make those big blockbuster moves at the deadline this year and going forward? Probably not. But he has done a very good job of building the player development system throughout the years, to where he could probably rebuild it, but it's going to take a while for him to get back to the level of making a trade for Juan Soto, making a trade for Mason Miller. And now let's get into the ownership, because it just seems like the failure of the Padres has come to a halt before the 2026 season, because the current Padres, their estimated payroll, 2026, $212 million. 2027, $257 million. Already they have that estimated, because that's when the contracts are going to start to kick in higher AAV. 2028, $249 million. So in that sense, again, to my notes here, let's get into the current state of the ownership, because the Padres, the family of Peter Seidler, wants to sell the team because they are not making a profit. They are losing money. It's a combination of they lost their TV deal. They have all these bad contracts on the end. Now, Peter Seidler, in his will, said that he does not want the Padres to be owned by anyone else besides his family for generations to come. 2 years later after his passing, or maybe 3 years, they're already looking to sell the team. And the problem with them selling the team, and this is going to go into the MLB salary cap and the impending lockout. The main reason owners want a salary cap. Now, there are some that might not want a salary cap. Like, I think teams like Washington, teams like Miami, they kind of don't want a salary cap, because what comes with a salary cap? A salary floor. And the projected salary floor, that this came out with a report, I don't know if these numbers are accurate, is like 140 to 160 million. I know about a dozen major league teams that don't want to spend that amount of money. But the owners that do want a cap, they want it for this specific reason. When you go to sell your team, because everyone says, evaluations of your major league franchise, you could always sell and then get your profit back, to where some teams are willing to lose money year in and year out if the evaluation of their franchise goes up, because eventually when they do sell it, they're going to make much more profit than the money they were losing year to year. So if they have all these bad contracts on the book with a system that doesn't have a salary cap, it's going to make it much harder to sell, because ideally, you want to sell when your franchise is in a good spot. You got a lot of young players, not too many contracts, to where the new group can come in and kind of do what they need to do. It's very hard to sell the San Diego Padres to an owner when you got Machado on the books, when you have Xander Bogaerts on the books, Jake Cronenworth on the books. Yu Darvish, well, I don't know about that contract situation, but they're not in a good spot. And it's just going to be so interesting, because obviously the Padres won't sell this year. I don't think any major league team is going to sell this year, because the buyer has no idea what the landscape of Major League Baseball is going to be after the 2026 season. Because if there's a salary cap, you also have to look into, well, what happens to the teams like the Dodgers and the Padres that have all this money on the books, to where if the Dodgers are over the potential salary cap, right? Let's say the salary cap is $300 million, but they already have $350 million committed for the 2027 season. These are just random numbers, but I'm just trying to give you the perspective. What are they going to do? Because you can't void contracts. You can't, they're valid, right? But if they're already over it, are they going to have to trade those players? But those players have no trade clauses. It's going to get very weird, to where if you go into the situation where some of these contracts are grandfathered in, to where, let's say, they have a grace period of 3 to 5 years for a team like the Dodgers, a team like the Mets. Well, you know what that does for the other teams? It gives the Dodgers much more of an advantage for those 3 to 5 years. Because if they're allowed to be over the cap because they already have the contracts that are grandfathered in, but a team like, let's say, the Marlins, they are nowhere near the cap. So they're already at a disadvantage, and your goal in a proposed salary cap is to close the gap of competitive balance. So that's just going to be very interesting. And this whole Padres situation will probably come to a culmination after the lockout happens, after the new CBA is signed, because then the potential buyers can be like, okay, I know exactly what I'm working with, and then I can make my decision if I want to buy the team or not. Now, how the Padres can get back to their glory days, like, if you guys remember the Dodgers when they had Manny Wood, all that kind of stuff, their ownership sucked. They filed for bankruptcy. Their main goal was not to win, and they were bad baseball owners. Now they eventually sold the team, and now they got this group of billionaires that are not only wanting to win a World Series, they're great business people. So it's a combination of both. So in my opinion, if the Padres can get someone similar, or a group of owners similar to what the Dodgers have, the Padres can eventually get to the Dodgers level, because the market in San Diego is prime for baseball. The fans love it there. If they are a winning ball club, they're going to sell out. In 2023, they sold out 72 of 81 home games. You don't see that in Major League Baseball. You see it with the Dodgers, you see it with the Phillies, you see it with the Yankees, but it's a very short number, to where they already have the market there. And it's a very attractive destination for free agents. Who doesn't want to live in San Diego? So I just think currently, with the current state of Major League Baseball and the CBA, the Padres are screwed. And then if there's a salary cap implemented, they're even more screwed, to where we're just going to have to see who buys the team. And if their main goal of winning, if their main goal is winning and winning a World Series and bringing San Diego the team they deserve, they can get San Diego out of the woodworks that they are currently in. But if someone else buys it and their main goal isn't that, San Diego might be looking at 10 to 15 years of utter despair. And I don't want that, because San Diego is a great market. Like I said, I love the fans. I love the team. I love the energy. So I hope they eventually do sell after the CBA kind of gets negotiated, the new CBA. And I hope someone gets in there and their main goal is to get Padres baseball to where it was when Peter Seidler was still alive and pushing for the city of San Diego. That'll do it for this episode of Baseball for Maniacs. Let me know your thoughts on the San Diego Padres situation. If you're a Padres fan, if you're a Dodgers fan, if you're just a fan of some other Major League Baseball team and you want to comment on it, please do, because it's a very interesting, sad situation that's going on in Major League Baseball, of all the moving parts, to where it's like, there's so much going on. But that'll do it for this episode. You guys have a good one. And always, go Phils.